Let's say that now I want to display the name and the profile picture of the user who is the owner of the question on the detail screen. This change in requirements will allow you to appreciate the main benefit of dependency injection architectural pattern, which is having a decoupled and maintainable code. The immediate consequence of this new requirement is that question details MVC view will need to make use of an image loader. As you can see, the constructor now receives image loader as an argument. It is worth mentioning that I did not implement my own image loading logic. That will be a very bad idea in this case. All image loader does is wrapping around glide image loading library. In addition to changes in MVC view, I also had to make changes in the respective use case. This change is a bit unrelated to the current task, but that's another best practice that I wanted to show you. When building applications that communicate with the server, it might be tempting to use just one set of data structures which are defined according to the structure of the server API. However, in the long term, this approach will become an issue because we, as client developers, usually don't have a full control over server's API. In order to decouple our application from the structure of server's API, I usually have two sets of classes. One set contains the data structures which are used inside the application. The question details data structure belongs to this set. The other set reflects the structure of the server API. I usually call these classes schemas. The only responsibility of schemas is to be used in serialization and deserialization of network requests and responses. This specific single question response schema data structure belongs to that set. In context of the new feature, you can see that question details contains display name and avatar URL of the owner of the question. So, to support this new feature, I made changes in both MVC view and use case. I surely had to make changes in the activity that sits right in between them. Well, not exactly. Let me show you which changes I did make in the activity. That's the only change that happened in the activity, and the only reason there was any change at all is because I decided to rename this data structure for better readability. That's what decoupling is all about. An ability to introduce new features by making isolated and narrowly scoped changes. But what's the role of UMUC Factor in all this? Well, if MVC view would still be instantiated right here in the activity, I would have to pass image loader into the activity, thus violating the law of Demeter. But now, since it is being instantiated by a factory, activity doesn't know about its dependency on image loader. And if you think that violating the law of Demeter just a bit will be alright in this case, then let me show you how the constructor of UMUC Factory might look like in a real application. This is the implementation from one of the applications I'm working on. In this case, we too started with just layout inflator and later added image loader. However, that wasn't the end of it. As the application evolved, some MVC views had to control the soft keyboard. Others had to communicate with navigation drawer. We had to show monetary values in different currencies. And I don't even want to start describing what this monstrous dynamic string manager does. Despite all these complications, all activities and fragments know about is this single method, which is the same method that I have in my simple tutorial application for this course. That's exactly why I told you that it is not important whether the UI of this application is simple or complex. Since I encapsulate the UI logic inside MVC views and then make use of dependency injection, the complexity of the user interface has almost no effect on the rest of the application. Now let's make sure that the application works as intended. Just like before, we see a list of questions on the first screen, but now if I click on a question, I can see the avatar and the name of the user who asked the question. Everything seems to work as intended.